Augie Cooter, Chapter 8. When Augie walked in the door, Turk went crazy as usual, barking and wagging his tail so hard he actually fell over. Augie got down on his knees and gave Turk's belly a nice scratch, which set the big dog's tail thumping happily against the floor like a tom-tom. "Do you miss me, Turkey boy?" he said. "How about we brush you this afternoon? Would you like that?" Turk's tail was wagging so fast now, it looked like it might come right off. The phone rang. It was Mrs. Cooter calling from the store. "I need you to come help this afternoon," she told Augie. "Wouldn't you know we've sprung a leak right in the middle of inventory? The plumbers had to tear down the whole back wall this morning. It's a mess in here." "I was just about to brush Turk," Augie told his mother. "Well, when you're finished, hop on your bike and come down, okay, Aug? I'll order us a pizza." "Prip, prip," said Augie, whose absolute favorite food was pizza. "What do you want on it?" asked his mother. "The usual?" "Yeppers," Augie said happily. Across the street, Donica flopped down on her bed and took a big bite of one of the vanilla frosted oatmeal cookies her mother had set out for her after-school snack. She reached over and flipped open the mini fridge, pulling a bottle of apricot fruit water off the shelf and unscrewing the plastic cap with her teeth. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out the pink flyer she'd torn off the school bulletin board when she'd noticed it on her way to the bathroom. "Calling all kids. Hidden Talents is coming to your town. We're combing the country in search of kids who can do something cool that nobody else can do. Come show our panel of judges what you've got. The quirkier, the better. Auditions at the Wauwatosa Bandshell, Friday, 3 p.m. sharp." Donica still couldn't believe it. Hidden Talents was one of the most popular shows on TV. She hadn't missed a single episode of the first season, staying glued to the television set until finally a 14-year-old boy from Nebraska beat out the competition to win the grand prize by playing the Star-Spangled Banner with a wet hand in his armpit. Donica was certain that if she could land a spot on the show, it would be the big break she'd been waiting for her whole life. There was only one problem. "Mom!" Donica called at the top of her lungs. "I'm downstairs, Cupcake," her mother called back. "Obviously," Donica yelled, "but I'm upstairs, so come up here. I need to ask you something." Mrs. Perfecto arrived a minute later, flushed from her climb and carrying the bag of oatmeal cookies. "What is it, dear? Do you want more cookies?" "No, I want you to help me figure out what hidden talent I have." Mrs. Perfecto put her index finger to her chin and thought for a moment. She said. "Hidden talent? Well, you do have a very loud voice, but I wouldn't say you keep that talent hidden exactly." "Having a loud voice isn't a talent, Mother," Donica said with a pout. "What about white teeth? Does that count?" asked Mrs. Perfecto. "You have very white teeth. Which reminds me, I need to make an appointment for you to have your regular checkup with Dr. Shelkin." "Mom," Donica said impatiently, "can you please stop talking about teeth and help me think of something quirky that I can do that nobody else can?" Mrs. Perfecto tried her best, but she couldn't think of a thing. "There must be something," Donica insisted. "Everybody's good at something, right?" "True," said Mrs. Perfecto. "Your friend Hannah is very good at ballet. And when Dawn plays that flute of hers, she sounds good enough to be in a professional orchestra." Donica was well aware of Hannah's dancing abilities and Dawn's musical skills. Their talents, not to mention the talents of various other kids she knew at Truman, were the reason she'd ripped the pink flyer down in the first place. Undoubtedly, other flyers had been put up around town, but she figured anything she could do to keep the competition down was worth it. "We're not talking about Dawn and Hannah right now, Mother," snapped Donica. "We're talking about me." "Of course we are, Cupcake, and I'm sure you're filled to the brim with talent, too. It's just that in your case, it's extremely well hidden, that's all." After Mrs. Perfecto left, Donica rolled over and lay on her back on her bubblegum pink bedspread, staring up at the ceiling. She had to think of something, anything she could do to impress the judges from Hidden Talents. She heard a dog barking outside and turned her head towards the window just in time to catch sight of Augie Cooter sitting on his porch brushing his dog. The air was filled with floating hairballs. "Ugh," she said, wrinkling her pointy little nose in disgust. When Augie finished brushing Turk, he pulled something square and orange out of his pocket. At first, Donica thought it was a wallet, but when he put it in his mouth, she realized it was a piece of cheese. "Why is he eating it that way?" wondered Donica, pushing herself up onto her elbows in order to get a clearer view. A minute later, Augie let out a whoop of joy and waved his masterpiece in the air. "Prrrip, prrrip! Check it out, Turk, my best ever." Donica's mouth fell open. Even from across the street, she could recognize the shape Augie had nibbled his cheese into. "Texas," she said in amazement. Suddenly, a light bulb went on over her head. She jumped off the bed and ran to the window. Yanking it open, she shouted down, "Augie Cooter, don't you move!" Then she turned and raced out of her room, flying down the stairs, past her surprised mother, out the front door, and across the street to the Cooters' house. When she would think back on this moment later, Donica Perfecto would regret two things. One, that she had left the pink flyer lying on her bed. And two, that in her haste, she had neglected to close the window.